Hello everyone, this is Robert, and I really hope that you like watching shop organization videos because I'm going to be doing a lot of that lately. I'm completely reorganizing and revamping my entire workshop, starting with this corner. As you can see, this is where I've got my dust collector, which goes over to my CNC router over there. I've got my table saw here, and just a bunch of other stuff. This is kind of the dump corner. Every shop probably has that one corner where you just kind of dump everything. This is my dump corner. This structure was here when I moved in, so I just kind of put the dust collector there, but I need to make this more space efficient. There's very little organization. I have a ton of stock and some offcuts in here. So the first step is to completely take everything out of here, remove it, and then rebuild it and make this actually organized. So let's do it. The very first step is to clear this whole area out. And this shot gives you a really good idea just how much stuff got kind of stacked in this corner. Granted, I'm rearranging the shop, so there's more stuff here than normal, but there's just a lot of stuff here. So I gotta move it all out of the way so I can get to the dust collector. Now that everything's out of the way, I can start dismantling the dust collector. This is an Oneida V3000 with a 3 horsepower motor. And one of the reasons I'm taking this apart is I want to kind of expand the system a little bit. Right now it just goes to the Avid CNC router and my table saw, but I want to expand it to like drill press and some other things. And it can be moved up about 1.5 or 2 feet up so that some of the ducting can be out of the way and maybe I can reclaim a little bit more floor space underneath of it. So I'm just kind of dismantling it. I'm going to figure out how to deal with that later. For the last 5 years, I've just been dumping offcuts into this corner and I really have no idea what's even there. So I'm going through and sorting it so I can see what I need to make room for. I make little piles of aluminum, I've got some steel, I've got some plastic, I've got some copper, a lot of PVC pipe, and a lot of it is just going to get tossed. A lot of it is not even remotely usable. I was just way too lazy and just dumped it in the corner, knowing that future me would deal with it and make a video about it. So I knew I'd find something interesting in there. Check this out. This is 1/2 inch thick, 12 inch long, 2 inch wide piece of Ultem. I've never used Ultem before. I've never machined it. I have no idea where this came from or why I have it. This is used in knife scales a lot. It's also used in high temperature applications. But yeah, really interesting. About a $60 piece of Ultem just hiding back there. Fun. So after organizing all of this and seeing what I actually have, my idea for this corner has completely changed. Originally, I was going to focus a lot more on this stock. I was going to focus a lot more on the metal and the plastic and have like sonotube organizers down here. I was going to do a row of, like 6 or 9 of them, then have a shelf, maybe have some pull-out drawers for more material storage. But what I'm seeing is this is all I have. This whole thing is about 100 cubic feet worth of storage for this. I've got a little bit of steel, a little bit of aluminum, a little bit of copper, and some plastic. I've got some PVC pipe over there, but PVC pipe is easy to store. But I actually have a significant amount of like trim, wood, 2x4s, and lumber, and I think this space is more conducive to that. So I'm gonna throw out that old plan completely, focus less on this stock and focus more on this stuff, which is much harder to store and harder to get to. Although this video is less than 5 minutes, I probably spent about a month going back and forth on all these different ideas and solutions. And I think what I'm going to do going forward is just to focus on what material I have, what I'm going to store. I'm not going to try and make this grand epic solution. I just need to get this organized so I can use what I have. So I came up with the idea of these shelf brackets and then little chains in between the shelf bracket, kind of like what you'd see at a Home Depot or Lowe's, because that's exactly how they store long material. So I'm going to try that out and see kind of how everything fits. Okay, so here's what I came up with, and it's a little bit weird, and I'll get a better shot of this. It's kind of hard to see from this angle. But this side is open, and I can just kind of go inside, and I have each one of these little sections in between the rails. I've got these little shelf brackets on here with a chain. I can undo the chain, grab what I need, attach it again so nothing will fall out. It's nice and organized. I have plastic and long metal extrusions here. I've got some lumber here and some trim on the very end. And each one of these chains kind of holds everything in place. So I think I like that. There's actually a lot of stuff stored in there. It's all nice and organized. It's all in this little cubby. There's just a couple small changes that I'm going to make. So let me zoom in. I'll show you what I'm going to do. So here's a look at the base of this structure, and you can see it's just kind of 2x4s made to a little floor, and it's kind of nice to step up into it. And you can see I just have a piece of trim right here, so that's kind of what everything is knocking against, so it doesn't just slide out this way. But I think I can do a little bit better. I don't really need these first two floorboards, so I think if I just remove those, everything can kind of sit down into the floor. It'll give this a little bit more of a positive stop because it'll just be hitting against the concrete, and so that will kind of help contain everything. So I'm going to take off those two, and I'm also going to extend these two rails because I have another idea for that. So as you can see, I've made a lot of progress. I filmed it, but deleted it because I'm an idiot, but took off the board right here on the front, reinforced this a little bit, kind of just screwed this down so the floor is a lot more sturdy, then cut out all of this so you can see all of the stock kind of fits down into the floor so it has a better place to go. And then I added these. These are fantastic. I just made these 3D printed brackets. I'll get a closer look here in a second. And these are the cheap little 6-quart $2 bins from Home Depot. They fit into this at a little bit of an angle, and I can use this for stock storage that's a little bit smaller. I have a lot of cutoffs, a lot of metal pieces, things like that. These will be fantastic. And they kind of lock into place. They hold nice and tight. Really happy with that, and that uses that space a lot better. So the next step is to figure out what to do with all this other stuff that's to the left of me, and I have a solution for that as well, and of course it involves a 3D printer. So here's a closer look at the bin solution that I came up with. It uses just these standard rails, and if you have them on 16-inch centers, everything fits nice and easy. You've got the standard shelf brackets. I got these at Lowe's. These are like 6-inch roughly. They fit in like that. And then I made this little sleeve adapter that kind of goes on top. I think it's like a 5 or a 10 degree angle, so it makes them a little bit easier to get to and also keeps it from overhanging too much, kind of lifts it up, moves it in. You've got 2 screws in the bottom that can attach down into the bottom. Obviously, I don't have them screwed in right now. Slides down in there, presses against the wall, add the 2 screws, that'll secure it. And then the bins just slide in like that. So this will be really nice for all the cutoffs or machining stock, things like that, that just really don't have a better place to go because they just kind of get lost. Otherwise, you can see into it, see what you have, pick this up, move it to where you want, and then slide it back in, nice and simple. And I have all these files on printables for someone that wants to do exactly what I'm doing right here. It's probably a little bit specific, but I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I just need to kind of load it up with all the material that I have. So here's what I've got left. This is all the stuff that I still need to figure out how to organize, and it's kind of an odd length. I'm calling it medium length. It's a little bit too big, or quite a bit too big for these bins, and if I put it into the vertical storage over here, it's just way too short and it would kind of get lost in the bottom and clutter everything up. So it's kind of an odd size, but I do want to keep everything. So I came up with something really strange and really bizarre, and it's probably only going to work for me, and it's this. Let's see how this works. I can't even tell you how many different ideas I had for this space. I think every single time I took a shower, mid-shower I had an idea, ran out, went into SolidWorks, wrote it down, mocked something up. I had probably at least a half a dozen different solutions for this, and this is the one that was, quite frankly, just the easiest. I'm not sure it's the best, but it's definitely the easiest, and it's gonna work for now. I'm doing air quotes if you can't tell. It's a solution. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm not saying it's a bad one. I'm really curious to see what everyone thinks in the comments, but it utilizes the horizontal space and the unused space really well. Every other solution I had relied on using the wall, which I don't have a lot of space here on the wall. It used the floor, which I don't have a lot of. So this kind of, I think, best utilizes the actual space that I have access to without impeding being able to walk in and out of this weird little storage area that I'm creating. So I think this project just kind of got away from me. Sometimes when you spend too much time trying to think out all these detailed little solutions, you kind of lose track of what the original goal is. Let me show you what I came up with, and I'm very curious to see your comments on this, whether it's a good idea or whether it's completely awful. So we're kind of looking at this from the outside. This is going to be accessed from the inside because I'm going to have the air filter here, and then the dust bin sits here. So this won't be accessible from the outside. It's just hard to film inside there. So I've got these PVC pipes on these pivots, 4-inch PVC pipes. They're pivoting, so the idea is from inside here, you can just kind of pull them inside. You can very easily reach inside, grab what you need, push it back, and they just kind of fall into place once I adjust the tension. There's a nylon lock nut in each one of these, so you can kind of adjust how much tension there is. It is very dense. When I was kind of thinking about a lot of different ideas for this, most of the storage solutions that I saw were vertical, so kind of PVC pipes stacked on the ground, mounted vertically like that, and you'd kind of drop everything in. The problem with that is it uses a lot of floor space, and all of this is relatively short. So if you store that on the floor, from here up is just all wasted storage. So I have a lot of vertical, but not a lot of floor space. So that's kind of why I went with this. And you also see these little things, I call them mini racks. You got to name it something. And these just kind of attach to the top of the 2x4. Yeah, they're pretty nice, they're simple. The only problem is due to the spacing of these 2x4s, these tubes don't come back this way, they kind of interfere. I could make a couple adjustments and make that work. So they kind of stop right there, which I don't know how much I care about that. But sometimes when you're doing research and you're like, why hasn't anyone come up with this before? Maybe it's because it's not a really great idea. And I'm not sure if this is a bad idea or good idea. Please leave your comments down below. But it is very dense storage. This right here stores everything you saw on the ground, except for some of the bigger PVC pipes. I have a solution for that coming. Let's talk about the dust collector. So I talked about this in the very beginning of the video. I wanted to move this up, and I think I'm going to scrap that idea. The motor up top has the impeller with it, and truth be told, I kind of struggled to kind of move it around because it's very, very, very heavy. But the problem is, yes, I have about 2 feet more that I could move this whole thing up and gain a little bit more space around here. But because the impeller is attached, it needs to lift up enough to drop into the top of the housing. So that kind of cuts that room down to maybe about 1 foot. Not a big deal. But that means this is the dust drum. I would need a longer one of these tubes right here. And of course they only sell it in like 10 feet, so I got to order a 10-foot, whatever. So this whole thing would have to be raised up. So I'd need a new one of these, not a big deal. Then all of this would have to be raised up. Then all of this, can you see it? All of this would need to be changed out. I would be changing a lot of stuff just to gain essentially 1 foot of space underneath the air filter that sits right there. That's about all I would gain. And of course, this tube right here would be about 1 foot higher. So I gain a little bit of wall space right there, but the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's going to be a lot of stuff to reconfigure. I'd also have to move this bracket up. There's a ton of stuff to do. So I think I'm just going to leave it right here. So the next step is I'm going to put the dust collector back together, get this reconfigured. I'm also going to change up the wiring a little bit because it was kind of sloppy and messy. So I'm going to change that up and then do one last thing to store all of these kind of odd PVC offcuts. And I'm just going to call this a day. This project has lasted way too long and I've just kind of gone off the rails. So let's get this back together. I picked up a 4-foot long, 12-inch diameter sonotube from Lowe's, and I'm using the table saw to cut this in half. For some reason, I've always wanted to use one of these for a shop organizational project, and here I am. The table saw works really well for cutting these cleanly in half. Just kind of set up everything and then just kind of spin it slowly by hand and you'll get a nice good cut out of it. They come in these 4-foot sections. I'm cutting it down into 2 feet, and I'm using each one of the 2-foot sections to kind of mount up above in the top section of this. I'm not going too crazy with mounting this because I just want this project to be done at this point. I just want these mounted so I can slap some stuff in them. But as you can see, they mount up here. It's a little bit out of the way, but I can use the ladder to get to it. This isn't stuff I'm going to need to access every single day. For securing these in place, I'm just using a couple screws here and there, and then I'm using some plastic pipe strapping. You could use, the traditional galvanized pipe hanger strap, but I found this plastic stuff that is just a little bit easier to work with, and they're actually relatively sturdy up here, perfectly fine for my purposes. So I realize that this is a bit of a strange camera angle, but it's very difficult to get all of this in the same shot, and I got a lot of cleaning up to do, well, in the whole shop right now. So of all the organizational projects I've done out here, this is definitely one of them. It's done, I'll just say that. Some of the ideas were good. I really like these. These turned out pretty good. I still got to fill them up. I got like one more to add up there. And the organization is overall good. There's a lot of stuff stored in a very small spot. I kind of wish I had better access to those pipes up top. I need a little step stool or something here, but yeah, overall it works out pretty well. This is easy enough to get inside. I can kind of turn around, get what I want, come out, and there's a lot of storage in there. Maybe this gives you some ideas of what to do and maybe what not to do. Not too thrilled with these things. They're kind of strange. They work, they're holding stuff, but yeah, not all that thrilled with them. These will be really useful though. For most of my small cutoffs and all my machining materials, so all my aluminum, plastic, steel, and machining stock, I actually have that in the tool chest over there. And I really like the idea of having machining stock kind of lined out because you're not just going to dump, some terrible offcut in there. So I'm actually happy with how that's organized. The big stuff's over here. And so, yeah, all of this stuff is good. Now I can move on to the rest of the shop. This is the cleanest and organized part in the whole shop right now. And I've got a lot more projects to do. So as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.